All right.
I have to.
All right. Welcome. Those of you, I think all of us were here for our service this morning. I'm sorry, good with faces, bad with names. Monica and Nicole are here from Queer NEPA to put on our LGBTQIA plus sensitivity training. As you all know, this came about from some incidents that happened, and the board had decided it was a very good time to include this training to make sure people are sensitive to the issues that we have going on. And I will leave it up to them to explain what those are and how best they do.
Good morning. I'm not going to use the mic. Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay, great. Yes, I can get a little louder. I could get a lot louder. How's that? So, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. It's an honor, and this is the first time we're doing this training, so we'd like some feedback at the end. Even though we put 2 hours, we're probably only going to be here maybe about 45 minutes, maybe an hour at the most. Again, thank you. My name is Nicole Hall. I am the chair of Queer NEPA. It was asked if we could do a presentation for you today about sensitivity, dealing with the LGBTQIA plus community, and we're going to go over that. That's like the alphabet soup for the community. Monica McGee here, my co-chair for Queer NEPA, is going to do the majority of the presentation. I'll jump in here and there and answer any questions that you have at the end. Monica, tell you.
Hi, everyone. I do have my laptop up. I will tell you when to say next, okay? But I'm trying to make it so this way this works for me here, because I have notes. All right, so my name is Monica McGee. I do presentations for a living. I do not necessarily do LGBTQIA presentations, but the first thing I want to tell all of you is, if you want to go to the next slide, it is a safe space here. A lot of people feel afraid to ask questions. So today is basically your free ticket to say, I have a question and I don't know how to ask it. Okay? A lot of people don't realize that just because you don't know how to ask it doesn't mean your question isn't valid. This is new for a lot of people. There are things that I'm learning every day. I have a trans son and I have a 17-year-old, so I have a 19-year-old trans son and I have a 16-year-old son, and they both drive me absolutely insane, equally. And literally what they do is they educate me, and I like to educate everybody else. So what you're seeing here is we are creating a safe space for you. Your organization, your church, is lovingly bringing us in to help bring you into 2023 with the LGBTQIA. They've always been there. Okay, you always had that uncle that was a little nice, you know? You always had that aunt who always liked to do everything in the yard with everyone else, right? We always had that family member, that friend, that back in the day, nobody talked about it, but they existed. They existed way before then. If you actually go into history, you're going to see it all the way back to Egypt, and you're going to go see it all the way back to Greece and Roman, and you're going to go back. The original indigenous people were two-spirit. They had two-spirit people. They still continue to do so. So we're just trying to give you guys an education about how you can interact with them. There's nothing but love here, because all we're trying to do is just have the same marriage that everybody else is having. You know, sometimes you get annoyed with your spouse. Just me, I get annoyed with mine. So it's the same thing. Everyone is vulnerable in learning. Okay, so you are very vulnerable here, and I'm here to give you that compassion. A lot of people don't realize that you have to have compassion in these educations. You can't get angry at somebody asking a question that they didn't know. So you will not have me get angry. Nicole will not get angry. Nobody here will get angry. And if you feel that you cannot ask the question in front of everybody, we'll talk to you later. We'll be here. We'll talk to you about it, and then I will present it to everybody else. And I'll give you an email so you can send it out to everyone in a way where it's not that person saying it, it's me saying it was brought to my attention. This is an information that somebody might want. Okay? Are we all good with the safe space and happiness? All right, and remember, what happens here stays here. All right, it's like Vegas. Only without all the bright lights, because I was just in Vegas and it was not fun. And it smells much better here. Okay? And if you have an opinion, your initial opinion is valid. And it's okay to change your mind at the end of this presentation. We really want you to understand that this is the perfect place for you to grow. Okay? Next. So we're gonna start with an activity, if you guys are willing to do it. What is your first impression? All right, so we're gonna give you a few minutes to think on it. You don't have to write anything down, you could reflect. What is your first impression with LGBTQ people and their identities? Okay, and if somebody wants to volunteer, I have a couple of people over here that look like they would happily volunteer. But truly, what is your first impression? What was it? Does anyone have a specific experience that they have that they want to share with us? With your first impression, with your very first LGBTQIA person. We like to call it LGBTQIA. I feel a little bougie saying it. You're welcome. Yes?
Well, I can tell you a story, and I'm sure I met lots of people before this happened. It was actually my first job at college graduation, so I've been through some workshops in college. But a friend of mine had invited me out to dinner, and I remember I liked her so much, and I had a guy in mind thinking, I have to bring them together. She invited me out to dinner, and we were eating, and she got up to go to the bathroom. She came back and she said, I just threw up. And I said, what's the matter? Are you sick? She said, I'm gay. And that was the first person who just came out to me personally. And nobody at our work knew about this. And I always feel honored that she knew, and she didn't say don't tell anybody. She knew that I would not out her. She knew she could tell me and things were safe. And she said her girlfriend was always saying, did you tell Terry yet? Did you tell Terry yet? And, you know, I look back and I feel honored that that had happened and that, and I never had any kind of negative feelings, but I never had anybody say it to my face. And I worried all night. I couldn't sleep. And I thought, what am I going to do tomorrow when I go into work? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And, you know, I woke up and I went into work and we said hi and life went on.
Truly, and honestly feel very honored because it takes a lot for a person to come out and say, you know, this is who I am. And that they felt so compelled that they had to tell you as their friend. That means that they loved and respected you enough. So I hope you guys stayed friends long after that.
Well, she moved away, but we were never not friends. And it never mattered again. And I never outed her. And I don't know what anybody else knew, but it didn't matter.
And honestly, it doesn't. It's just like saying, this is my husband. You know, it's the same thing as saying, this is my wife. You know, I always used to say I was married to a man before I left a woman to be with him. And I used to tell him all the time, I was like, I need a wife. And he's like, why? I was like, because I, as a wife, support you so much. And I feel like I need a wife to support me. And in my head, it was, no, you just need to get rid of the man and go back to the women that you loved so much more. And it had nothing to do with that he was a bad person or anything like that. I still talk to him to this day. We have 2 beautiful children. It's just, he was not who I wanted to be with. I wanted to be with a woman and feel that support and love. And guess what? It doesn't matter who it is. It's just who you want to be with. So, anybody else have a first impression?
Yeah, I was just thinking as you're talking, back when I was in high school and college, I had a couple of older cousins, Mary and Peggy. And they used to come over our house frequently and they would like, you know, chit chat and gossip with mom and dad and all that. And us sometimes, us children. But they had more than a few friends who they used to call gay instead of straight. And they were very open-minded about it and I never really thought twice about it until maybe the late 70s that, you know, I realized it was a common sense way to be. And I'm grateful to my older cousins, Mary and Peggy, who were kind of like trailblazers in our family tree back in the 60s and 70s. And they kind of showed us the way to be open-minded and good and helpful. And I've forgotten all about it until I'm sitting here listening to you talking. That's my story.
Well, you know what? It takes those trailblazers to get us where we are now. You know, if you don't have it as a child, you're not exposed to it. As you get older, what happens? You don't realize that it's something that's common. How many people here really and truly grew up with a whole bunch of people in the school and there was maybe one person of color or one gay person? Right. I was very fortunate. I grew up in New York City. I had an aunt who was sometimes my uncle and my uncle who was sometimes my aunt. I had an aunt who was married to a woman. I am a very light-skinned Puerto Rican woman, so I was privileged in that manner to where I had all of the rainbow all around me all the time. That doesn't mean everybody has the same experience, but I can't treat anybody horribly for not having my experience. Every experience is a beautiful experience and a learning experience. So what we're here to do is, okay, so my question is, what's the most influence of your initial impressions and understanding of transgender people?
Going to give a confession. I was raised a phobe. Meaning I was raised to fear the LGBTQIA plus community. I was homeschooled from birth, never went to public school a day in my life. I lived on a cul-de-sac and I had my media heavily censored. So the first time I ever openly met somebody who was a member of LGBTQIA was in college when I was on student council and we were making a decision about bathrooms. And I had never even heard of transgendered anything. I didn't know what that was. So my solution was, well, why don't we just relabel the bathrooms penis and vagina? And my best friend was like, so where do I go? And I was like, why? And that was my exposure into LGBTQIA. I was like, well, why?
I mean, it was your best friend, so that's great.
Yes. Turns out that my best friend was a trans man. And that was my interesting exposure was, here's my line of thought the entire time. I never knew. And Emily and here and Mike, who is my friend from college, are the two people I still go, what does that mean? And they very kindly tell me. So my first eye-opening experience was making a decision that impacted others' lives. And upon It Matters to Me, with my friend being very kind, I took a step back and decided I should not be part of this process until I'm better educated by my friend.
I saw your hand up. Oh, I like it. Keep getting involved.
No, I just wanted to say that as a member of this church, had the privilege of knowing several trans people. We had a member for quite a while who was in the middle of transitioning, and who had the surgery, and she was really open and honest about the whole thing, and would come to church, during the transition, dressed in, really nice, not like we would dress, with heels and stockings and everything.
Sunday best.
And she really was the first person that really opened my mind. But then I found out that one of my good friends here at church had a daughter who had transitioned as well. And then we had another member. So I think this church has really opened me up to understanding more about trans people, but I still feel like I have a lot to learn about what's going on now, and all of this new prejudice. I'm not sure where it's all coming from.
It's not really new.
It's not new, but it's
made normalized.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess we've always been open, but I just feel terrible about what's happening right
And
now.
the fact that you feel terrible makes you a really good ally.
Did you want to talk?
Hey. Me? Come right
I will repeat the question.
now, or is there a problem, or?
Where did most of the influence of your initial impressions or understanding of transgender people come from?
Who wanted to speak? Emily?
I'm sorry if my lashes start to mess with me. I didn't realize that I had allergies until I moved to this area.
So My first impression was working at I worked at a gas station overnight shift. And so I got to see the best and worst of everybody.
That's with every overnight shift.
Yes. And I was having a particularly rough night because several men had come in and they were being rather vulgar, and I had asked them to leave. The next people that came in, and I was like Hava, raised phobic, and the next people that came in were a group, I don't want to say posse, but they were a group of queens and dressed to the nines, and they were gorgeous. And my first thought was, going back to the programming that I had been given as a child, was, oh my God, they're here to make trouble. And they saw my face, and I guess they read all of the stuff in my face, and they were like, oh honey, you need a break. And so one of them started cleaning up the coffee station, another one started straightening, and I didn't even ask them to do anything. It was just, they came in, they were very nice, they were pleasant. They stayed in when two other men came into the store, and they stayed until they had left. And I was like, okay, so if my parents are wrong about them, what else are they wrong about?
Oh, honey. That's an entire differently
Yes. Yeah.
presentation.
So that was my first impression and my first interaction with them. And the first thing that made the biggest impact was my daughter. And she said, Mom, I have something to tell you, but I'm afraid. I don't know how you're going to react, and I'm afraid you're going to hate me. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I like girls. And I said, okay, everybody likes girls. And she said, no, I like them like them. And I was like, okay, so you like girls. And I was like, do you need some girl posters to go with your guy posters? And she was like, yeah. So that was my first, the thing that made the biggest impact was, now my child is this, and now I need to expand my horizons so much more.
How old was your child when they came out?
9.
So it's really easy to deal with children that come out at that age.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to date till you're 15.
Yeah.
It really is. Same rules that you give your straight child, you're going to give your LGBTQIA child. My son came out, before he came out as trans, he came out as gay, as a lesbian. And he was like, I like girls. I was like, how are your grades? He's like, I'm like, because you can't date until you can maintain your grades. That is your job. Kids don't think about it the way we do. They think about what's between your ears. They don't ever think about what's below the neck. People don't realize that. They're always like, oh my gosh, we're sexualizing children. No, it's just the technical term of being homosexual versus heterosexual. You're sexualizing them when you put those little t-shirts on them at 3 months old going, lady killer. That's sexualizing a child. You're not going to sexualize a child if they come to you and say, hey, I'm gay. I'm like, all right, cool. What do you like about the person? Because you're going to ask them the same question regardless. What do you like about them? What inspired you to like them? What made you want to be a part of that community? What triggered that attraction? It usually is Pokemon or My Little Pony.
Yep.
Or some cute little innocent thing. We have to maintain the innocence as well. We have to make sure that we're making our children in a very safe, innocent environment as long as we can, correct? We're not sitting here trying, oh yeah, let's marry them off. I don't want my boys to ever leave my house. Stay home, okay? Stay home and be innocent for as long as you can. But all we're doing is same thing as everyone else is doing. We're looking at humans for the person that they are and not for what, because when we're old, like nursing home age old, we're not doing that. There's nothing that we're doing when we're sitting in the nursing home. We're all conversing and talking. And believe me, I'm a nurse. I work in those things. They don't do anything except wheel around or yell at you or play bingo, and they love playing bingo. So do my kids. So all we're doing is learning personalities. And sometimes somebody has a beautiful personality and spirit, and they just happen to be the same gender as you. That's all it is. So you want to go to the next one? This is the fun one. Do you see all these terms? I am still learning all of these terms, okay? There are quite a few on this one that I did not know. So we know what asexual is, correct? That is somebody who just doesn't like anything to do with sex. They just like everything to do with talking to people, interacting. Sometimes they don't even want to interact with humans. They just don't like people sometimes. Biological sex, that means without genetic testing, without going further into it, what you were born as, okay? They don't know anything, it's just what you're presenting it. Biphobia. This is one of my favorite ones because it's very valid, including in our own community. Biphobia, people who are afraid of bisexuals. They keep saying, pick a side. There is no side. They don't see the gender, they see the person. All right, bisexual, again, somebody who likes men and women. Cisgender, again, not an evil term. I am a cisgender woman. I was born a woman and I present as a woman. That's all that means.
Explain where that came from, because I always wondered that, what the cis stands for.
Same,
Huh?
same, born as. It's a medical terminology.
It's what?
It's the Latin word for same.
Cis is the Latin word for something?
Mhm.
Oh.
It's just when you have these things, it literally is a medical terminology. So cis is saying, coming out. You had a beautiful story about somebody coming out. I don't think I technically ever came out to my mom. One day I had a boy home, and then the next day I brought a girl home. And then I brought a boy home again, and she's like, listen, slow down. I don't care what you have, just slow down. But I'm like, whatever, I just have lots of friends. Gay. Gay is usually used as a term of males who like other males. However, it's also an umbrella term of the community as well. Gender queer. That means, you are in your gender, but you also are not in your gender. It fluctuates. It's, again, one of the ones that I learned.
Can you repeat that word? The print is small, and I couldn't quite hear.
Gender queer.
Oh, okay.
And yes, we did take the word queer back. It was such a negative connotation that years ago, queer became our word again, because we're not going to continue to let it be a bad connotation when it's supposed to mean different. Homophobia, we all know what that is. Homosexual, again, male or female, who likes the same gender. Homo sapien, we all know what that is, right? Homo sapien. I've had somebody tell me that they are not Homo sapien. So, and that's fine because they didn't know the terminology. You know what? Sometimes people just, and I come from New York City in the project. Sometimes people do not know things. Some people don't have the opportunity to learn those things. So when they're like, I'm not a Homo sapien, I'm like, all right. I'm like, how do I explain that? I'm like, so Homo sapien just means human. It just means human. And I would go into them about, Neanderthal, things like that, and then they would get it. So, but if somebody says, I'm not Homo sapien, give them the benefit of the doubt and educate them first, okay? Intersex. Anybody knows what intersex is? Go ahead.
I am intersex.
You are?
Yeah. Intersex is when your chromosomes are not perfectly XX or XY, so you're biologically in between the two biological sexes.
Two-spirit. My son is intersex. My trans son. He came out as trans at 14, and I turned to him and I said, okay, I love you, but we have to do a lot of steps before we get anywhere. And I specifically told him, please, just bear with me. I believe you are my son. I believed you were my son when you were in utero, because when they said you were female, I cried for weeks because I wanted a boy. I might have had something to do with the chromosomes being all messed up, because the rest of the time I'm like, I please hope they were wrong. Well, I waited 14 years and I got what I wanted. I had genetic testing, I had the brain scan, he had 6 months of therapy, so this way he's not just gender dysphoria. My son literally has male chromosome in him. His brain scan matched that of a boy his age. It was not feminine at all. It did not have the feminine scans. It was a male scan. My son was my son from birth. I just didn't know this. And so he was like, can you come and bring me to that level? And then he went through the therapies, and now he's wonderful Grayson driving me insane. He would have been the same either way, but he's still wonderful Grayson. Lesbian. I like girls. That's all that means. Legitimate pop. Passing. That's me. I am passing. Would anybody look at me and think that I'm gay, aside from the fact that I love wearing rainbow stuff? Okay? Would anybody look at me and think that I'm a lesbian? Not at all. I am 100% passing. Queer, again, that's just a community. Transgender, again, that's just somebody who is now representing themselves as the gender that they want. Ally. It's you guys. Anybody who is not part of the LGBTQ, but supports them and has things like this, you guys are an ally. And we need allies. Fervently, we need allies. Because as I said to my son and those gentlemen at the tattoo shop last night, because I had a tattoo, I said, you guys are cisgender white males. We need you on our side, because the first Pride was a riot. We need you guys on our side saying, you know what, leave them alone, stop being bullies. That's what we need. Gender expression. When you express yourself as the gender you feel. Yes?
What is on the LGBTQ, I think you have the GSM and DSG?
That's a lot.
Basically, everything on this slide.
Yes.
Okay.
Heteronormativity. Again, me, I pass as a straight white woman. Pansexual. That's somebody, again, who does not see gender at all. They like everyone. It's all encompassing. Okay, so that means non-binary, and we'll get to that one. It means transgender, anybody. They are just attracted to the human souls.
So then is there a difference between bi and pan, or are they just?
There is a difference. There's a difference. Bisexuals only like males and females. Okay, and they only like the ones that are expressing themselves specifically as male or female. She, he, they, thems. Then that would kind of switch you over to pansexual. Okay. Questioning. If you don't know what you like, you're just sitting there wondering. Okay. I think at some point we all questioned ourselves. Okay. Sometimes, what was it? There was a TikTok. There was a TikTok where this guy says, I am super straight until I had to be rescued by a fireman. He goes, they said, here's your card, go lay over there in the corner. And he goes and he lays in the corner, and the firemen, all they rush in, they go, he looks at his card, he goes, I'm gonna get you out. And he goes, huh. And then he turns around and he goes, this man lifts me up like I weigh nothing, carries me out, and I felt safe. He goes, I went from being straight man to, very quickly. He questioned himself. Why? Because there was an instance to where he questioned himself. I love TikTok for those things. But again, you don't have to hate yourself for questioning yourself. You could just appreciate the opposite sex or the same sex. It doesn't matter. I find men beautiful all the time. I have a type of man that makes me go, huh, very specific type. Tall, dark hair, strong jawline, Superman looking. I also like comic books. You don't wonder why. Romantic attraction, somebody you are romantically attracted to, okay? Somebody you want to date. Sexual attraction, somebody you want to have sex with. Sexual orientation, that's what we're here for, right? What you're attracted to and what kind of relationship you want to have. Straight, some people are straight, that they only like the opposite gender, which is perfectly fine. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for straight people. You know, well, actually, all of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't for straight people, so thank you. Transphobia, people who are afraid of trans people. You don't understand how many trans people you actually meet, and you don't even realize they're trans. Literally and truly, they're gorgeous. They are like the most perfect specimen. Like I keep telling my son, I'm like, you are the perfect man, because he has all of the feminine things that I taught him as he was getting older, and he's not afraid of being vulnerable and not afraid of being sensitive, but then he's just this pretty boy. I'm like, oh, you're gonna make some human very happy one day.
You should become a fireman.
He should. He should. An advocate, anybody who advocates for our rights, for any human right, you're an advocate. Agender, somebody who just has no gender. A lot of people don't realize that, but genetically you can be born with the lack of hormones that make it so this way you can express a gender. So you just walk around very neutral in yourself. Androgyny, one of my favorite things is to see somebody who is androgynous. That means you can't tell if they're male or female. They are some of the most beautiful humans I've ever seen. It's because I can't tell, and it just expresses true beauty. People say angels look like they're agender, like they're very androgynous, that you can't see if they're male or female. They're just beautiful. And these are just stories that I've heard, that like when people have their experiences or when they imagine angels, they feel like they're very androgynous, like not male or female. They're just beautiful. So I have a place in my heart for anybody who is agender and androgynous. Androsexual, androphilic, again, towards the, you don't know the difference. Aromantic, somebody who doesn't like romance, which is actually probably safest in this world right now, because have we all seen Match.com? Bi-curious, bi-gender, those two things, they're curious to experiment with liking somebody of the same sex. Bi-gender is, again, same thing. It's very weird, all these different terms, and trust me, I'm learning it. Binder. This is for the trans people. When they have a chest and they don't want it shown, they will wear a binder. However, binders can be dangerous if done incorrectly. So that's where it comes to be a very good advocate. That's where it comes to be a very good ally. This is where it comes to be that support system for your trans person, okay? Binders can cause severe lung issues, breathing issues, back issues. At certain stages, it'll make it so this way they can't function. But they hate their body so much that they feel they have to wear it. So if you give them the support and show them, hey, let's do this safely and let's research it. There's so many websites out there that you could look up. If you want, I will email you a list of websites. But binders are definitely, if you see somebody who is trans or non-binary and they're out in public and they have something that looks like a tank top, but it looks like it's compressing their chest, that is a binder. Offer them water. Okay, offer them water, ask them if they need to take a break, because people don't realize that it's like wearing a corset. Okay, it is like wearing a corset, you are compressing yourself. Butch would be a female who looks more masculine. Huh?
Hey,
Is that
describe yourself to me now.
It could be an insult. However, I am not that way, so I will.
Yes, those of us that are of the sporty, masculine.
Sporty?
Yeah, dress a little bit male attire. That is a butch for you. I just want to reverse back to transgender. How many of you here understand transgender? Okay, what I want to speak about is transgender is someone that transitions They're born either male or female. And I was born female, so my pronouns are she and her, okay? Maybe throughout some point in my life, well, wait a minute, I don't feel comfortable in my female identity. I want to be male. That's transitioning over then to a male. Same thing that happens with a male. Maybe at some point in their life, they're like, wait a minute, I want to be female. I want to be a woman. That's transitioning over to the female side. So do you understand now what transgender is? That's very confusing for a lot of people, especially older adults. And I don't mean to be ignorant about it, but that community wasn't exposed to it like we are today. And again, this is part of today's presentation of education. So when you're presented with that, like Monica had said about the binders, when you go to the community pool or you go to your friend's house and there is somebody there with a binder, don't stare at them. Okay, make them feel welcome. All right. Same thing as somebody that's gone through the transitioning or transition, meaning they went through the surgery and gotten a top surgery, meaning maybe they were female and had their breast removed or reduced. They may have scars. They may at some point wear shirts openly like a man can. Don't stare. They may have scars. Okay. Does that help a little bit? Yes, sir.
So, you said that you identified as she, her,
That's my pronouns.
but you.
That's okay. Yes.
This is
I
where
got
lose
you.
The older
I got
generation.
you. I got you. So I like dresses and makeup. I identify as she, her. I'm okay with wearing dresses and makeup. It's comfortable for me. I like having long hair. It's just fun. It's just how I like it. She still likes being a woman, but she also finds that men's clothing are cheaper and more comfortable.
And I hate long hair.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
All it is. She still likes being a woman. She still likes being feminine at times, but she also just likes men's clothing.
So, well, I mean, now it's getting deeper into confusion here, because my
It's
thought,
confusing for us too.
so my thought was that you would want to be he, him. You do not want to be.
So he, him would be for somebody who's transgender.
You're not transgender.
No, I'm a female. I was female at birth. I'm a lesbian.
That's why it's considered butch. And I'm gonna go down over here for a minute, or dyke, again. She's still of the mindset of, oh, I come from a time to where we're taking these words back. We're not giving the evilness of those words to anybody. But again, it is masculine presenting female. So she has short hair and she has male clothing or masculine looking clothing, but she's still female.
How are you supposed to know that?
You're not.
You asked.
That's what we want. That's the point of this
You're not.
presentation today is we have become so engrossed from our learnings from a child throughout. And there's this thing, it's called, help me here, unconscious biases. So you have these biases that you don't even know that you were taught or developed. And for me, for example, I just called you sir before. I shouldn't, because I shouldn't assume that you're a he. Your appearance to me says you're he, and this is where we get in sticky water. You need to back away from that. So if you present to somebody or you talk to somebody, just go, hello. Don't say hi, ma'am, hi, sir. That's where you're gonna get into a lot of hot water. And that, for me, being a lesbian and I appear masculine, I'm constantly called a sir. Excuse me, sir, like when I'm at work. That bothers me like you wouldn't believe. And that's where you may not understand. Get away from the identifiers as a, whether it's a lesbian or a gay or a man, it's a person. And just go, hi, how can I help you? Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yes, yes. So
What I usually do is I'll ask, what are your pronouns? Because one, it means that when you're asking somebody that, you're a safe space. You're somebody who's safe. If you're asking, what are your pronouns? My pronouns are she, her, right? It's a safe space for them to say, oh, I'm they, them. You create this open conversation without knowing that you're creating it, just by asking, you know what are your pronouns before I start anything? Having that one simple question that you ask somebody will take them from standing there feeling scared and not knowing how to talk to you to, oh, he's an ally. It's coming.
I'm a greeter at the church, and there was who I'm going to say was a trans woman attending, and very, very shy person, and I tried to talk to them every time that they came, and then after several visits, maybe a couple of months, I asked their pronouns, and they never came back after that. So I'm thinking maybe I should have asked the first visit, or maybe they thought they were passing as cisgender female. But I felt really bad about that because, I mean, I don't think it was a coincidence that I asked that and they never came back, but.
You know what, though? You can't say that it was you, because a lot of things that people are dealing with is very much internalized. I will always say, if it's a new person, regardless of how they're passing, as soon as they walk through those doors and you're greeting them, say, hi, my name is, I am she, her, what are your pronouns? That should be your first thing to say. This way, even if they're she, her, and they present as she, her, they know that, one, this is a very open area to come to, and two, that you guys are allies, and three, what if even though they are passing, they're trans? Or they're non-binary. I know non-binary people who are very flamboyant in their gender presentation. Sometimes they look like the most fabulous gala-ready, everyday person, and then sometimes they're in sweats and a t-shirt. So just ask. The first time you see them, the first time you meet them, and then everybody will get used to the whole, hi, my name is, my pronouns are, what's your name and pronouns? It gets into a habit. I do it actually at my regular job outside of here. And it's kind of weird because I work in the medical profession. And I get people to go, that's weird to say.
I'm just wondering if that might be too aggressive. I mean, I would say what my pronouns are, but I'm wondering if I should ask that person or let them just respond to the fact that I've just said that, and so that they are free to say that, but don't have to.
You can do it. If they don't say their pronouns, say, how would you like me to address you? Because
Okay.
sometimes they are non-binary and they are they, them, and they would like to be addressed as such. And if they're just somebody who's just heteronormative and they're just like, oh no, I'm good with she, her, or I'm good with he, him, somebody will throw you off and say Zer.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You know? It's, again, I'm learning too. There's lots of different pronouns. So like when I come out and I say, hi, everyone, or ladies and gentlemen, I don't say that anymore. I say, hey, folks, because that kind of encompasses everybody.
We do have a question online from Claudia. What about random interactions? For example, if someone holds a door open for me and I say, thank you, ma'am or sir, should I preferably say thank you kindly with no gender attribute?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Just take gender away, because I don't know what's under anybody's skirt. So I'm not going to assume anything anymore. I am so glad you guys are asking questions.
I have a question about the they, them.
Okay.
So you said it's non-binary, so
Yes.
that is not identifying as either sex?
Yes.
But could it also be people who don't want to play the game? They don't want to identify, so because I've said.
Non-binary means somebody who doesn't feel comfortable identifying as male or female. They're just like, I don't care. So they're more of that, I am they, them.
So they don't, need to be questioning or not knowing, they can just say, I don't want to
I'm just they, them, that's
participate in
it.
this, I want to be a they, them. And the reason I'm asking is because I've introduced people as a convener, and they say they, them in their written, and I don't even really know what they're saying.
So what that means is just like you call me, well, this is Monica, her name, her job is, so you'll say, and I'm going to use their name because I love them. This is Tabitha. They are a drag king. While they're in drag, they prefer he, him, but when they're out of drag, they are non-binary. I know it sounds like you're breaking every English rule, okay? But you're not. He had his hand up first.
No, I'm just saying that it's hard to, especially, there are situations where you identify the person just by eyesight. You never met the person, and you've already assigned a gender to that person. And that it just, this is just a comment, it's very hard to keep track of these pronouns in a natural way. It would be nice if everybody was they. Like you say.
So what I do
Yeah.
is I assume everyone is they until they tell me differently.
Right.
I don't assign anyone a gender, and I'm like, hi, I just met Sam. They are this, this, and that. And for me, if I don't assign a gender, if they want to correct me, they're like, you know what? I'm okay with she, her.
Is it possible to talk without pronouns?
All the time.
Okay, that's what I think would be the safest thing for.
All the time. How are you doing?
Right.
You know, I talk without pronouns all the time. I never want to assume, especially when I go into different places that I work at. I want to make sure that when I'm speaking to people, I have included everyone. When I use examples, I do use my wife as an example for situations, because the people who I'm speaking to, I want to make sure that they understand that regardless of how they're presenting, there's a representation, and representation matters.
Right.
So
But when you're talking about somebody, sometimes.
I usually don't, I'm like, I usually say they, if I'm talking about somebody, if I have to,
Yeah.
or I'll just say their name. You can
Excellent,
use their
yes.
name instead.
If you can remember.
Yeah, but it also is a good practice in remembering names.
So if I can interject, I don't know, you met Mordecai. Mordecai is my 5.5-year-old child who's very gender wibbly wobbly. Sometimes Mordecai is they, them. Sometimes Mordecai is she, her. Sometimes Mordecai is he, him. One time Mordecai was he, her, not him, her. I refer to Mordecai as Mordecai until told otherwise.
So a lot of y'all know me. I am gender queer. I prefer they, them pronouns. I am feminine presenting most of the time because that's how I was raised. I'm phasing out a lot of my feminine clothing because I'm going to be honest, a lot of it's not comfortable. But, you know, the idea is that they, them allows me more expression, allows me more to be fully more myself than just she or just he. So I hope that helps.
That's beautifully said. So there are only a couple of things I really want you guys to understand on here. There's a lot on here, and I'm sending, you guys have a copy, so you can go over it. What I really want to go over is scoliosexual. There's some words I really want you guys to know what they are. Scoliosexual, that means somebody who is only attracted to transgender or non-binary people. There's 3 letters on here, PGP, preferred gender pronouns, okay? QPOC, queer people of color. QTPOC, queer transgender people of color. Again, there's Zer, the last one. Remember I said Zer? I learned that making this slide for you guys. And then I called my son and I'm like, wait, what? And he was like, oh yeah, no, it's all right. And is there anything else? We do not use the word fag or faggot. That is not a word we're taking back.
That's derogatory.
It's super derogatory. And the reason is, do you know where it derived from? Oh, is it cigarettes?
No, but it is rubbish, but a fag or a faggot is literally a bundle of sticks, but it's a reference to homosexuals being burned alive by the Catholic Church of England.
And then if you go further down with that, the British used to light their cigarettes, and they're called fags, and would burn the gay men with it. So it was always a violent connotation. I feel the same way. It's a violent connotation. So I will always say that is not a word we will ever want to take back, because it was meant to harm us, literally, not figuratively, literally harming us.
And also you have dyke listed as well, and that's still also an insult, or?
Dyke?
Yeah.
Depends on who you talk to. Some people, again, it's dependent on how it used. Tell me what you know of the history of that.
As far as I know, it's literally just a levy to control water. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
It is just a word that they used. It is a levy to control water, but they always felt like butch women would be the one building things, and they tried to say, oh, you're not man enough, so here, this is a negative connotation.
So, my understanding of where this word came from is through a little bit of research of my own. A dike in older English times was a ditch that carried dirty sewer water to wherever it was going to go, and it was made sure that that way.
Toss it out the window.
Right, and it was used derogatorily to refer to, and forgive me for putting it this way, but
No,
a woman as a dirty ditch.
Yeah.
So.
And not just women who liked other women.
Right.
Just women in general.
In general. So that term has always been used derogatorily when directed at women. So, and again, the word queer is another one that prior to it being used derogatory always meant strange or weird.
Yeah.
So it
we
was
took that.
applied derogatorily to other people, or to people.
So again, those are some things that we're looking at. Does anybody know anything about drag? So drag queen, most times, is a man dressing as a woman to perform on stage for your entertainment. Drag king, most times, is a woman presenting as a man to perform for your entertainment. I am a drag queen because it no longer has a gender connotation behind the tons of makeup and the wigs and the costuming. All it is another form of art, okay? And I've been doing it for 30 years, 31 years. Oh, when I was 14, my uncle, who used to sometimes came home as my aunt, would go to these beautiful ballrooms and perform and come over and put makeup on me. And one day he put an entire makeup and a wig and everything on me. And I was like 13, 14 years old. And he goes, your new name is Hussy Galore. And it stuck. And I've performed ever since then. I do nothing in indoctrinating children. You know, all I do, and most of the shows that I do are adult shows, because I don't want children to see what I do, because again, with the name Hussy Galore, you can't really go much. But there are beautiful drag kings out there and drag queens out there that, when I tell you, all they do is spread love, light, and it's just fun to watch. And you wouldn't want me to sing anyway, so you want me to lip sing. You know, there's some kings and queens that sing beautifully. I'm not one of them. But drag kings and queens are under attack in the country as well. So we want to spread that message of it's not bad. It's just a different form of art. You guys liked Shakespeare back in the day too. Women weren't allowed on stage, you know? Robin Williams, like there's an entire plethora of people that dressed as a girl on TV, on movies. Do you want to go to the next slide? This is a fun one. We're going to avoid saying hermaphrodite. We're going to say intersex. We're not going to say homosexual, really. We're going to say gay. Because homosexual is a medical diagnosis, and we are no longer in a medical diagnosis book.
Wait, so can you call and say gay?
No.
When you turn to the TV to speak, can you use the microphone to speak?
This one?
Yeah. That way people on Zoom can hear me describe.
I actually don't need to turn, it's on my, I'll just stand here. Okay. Hermaphrodite, don't say that, say intersex. Hermaphrodite is stigmatizing, and it really isn't as accurate as you think, because it's more than just that. Hermaphrodite?
Isn't the word hermaphrodite still a medical term in medical dictionary?
They use it in the medical dictionary, but they don't use it in medicine. You need to know the term, but it's an intersex, because it's more than just having the genitalia. It's genetics, it's overall. Yes, so we. I'm not gonna break HIPAA. You know what I mean? So like, a lot of times people don't need to say unless they want to, but if somebody says I'm intersex and that's all they say, or if you want to. It's more stigmatizing, because what are the best practices for the medical care of intersex infants or intersex children or intersex adults? You're going to ask intersex, you're not going to say hermaphrodite. It's very stigmatizing. Born female or born male, you're assigning a gender to somebody. I know somebody who's currently pregnant, and she is not having a gender reveal party like everybody else. She's going to just have a party and just have a purple cloud come out.
It's a person.
It's a human, yay. Gay or a gay or a transgender. You're going to say a gay or transgender person. They're adjectives to describe a group. Like you're going to say, we had a transgender athlete in our league this year, instead of the transgender athlete. You know, you're not going to go straight for that person. Transgender people and normal people. Last time I checked, we're all pretty normal. For the most part, everybody's pretty normal. So it doesn't matter what you represent as, you're just a person. Both genders or opposite sexes, you're just going to group everyone as all genders. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you're inferring that everybody is either male or female. So everyone, folks, honored guests, fellow humans. What was another one? Somebody said your royal attendees, and I lived for it. Please call me a royal attendee. I will come to whatever function you have. Mailman, fireman, policeman, you're going to talk mail clerk, firefighter, police officer. You're going to talk about gender neutral terms. Next one. You're going to your best practice for your safe space. You're going to make your safe space any place where a person can feel free from harassment and discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. We do not want them to feel like they're not safe there. Any place where a person can go to talk about issues of sexual orientation or gender identity without the fear of being judged. Just like you guys are here learning about it without the fear of being judged. Because I'm not judging anyone. We all need to learn about these things. I'm still learning, and I'm pretty well versed in it. Any places where a person can get information about programs, resources, availability to help answer questions on that orientation or identity. Any place where a person can feel comfortable about being open about their sexual orientation. It didn't take me any time to just be like, hey, I'm gay. I've always been that way. However, my wife still is afraid, and she's more masculine looking. She still is afraid to even hold my hand walking down the street because she grew up in this area and she knows this area is very scary. So again, yes?
So for those of you that know Jesse Simon's husband, Charles, in case anybody did not see his Facebook post, he and Jesse were out in public and they were sitting together, and Jesse reached over and grabbed his hand because they're husband and husband. So they you know, Jesse, I don't know if you know Jesse
we
Simon,
know.
right? Okay, so his post was specifically about the fact that when a group of people walked up, he immediately let go of Charles's hand. Because prior to him transitioning, it would have been perfectly acceptable and okay in public. And now that he's transitioned, he's afraid that people will judge him. And because that's the prevailing viewpoint out there today.
And it's very, very scary out there for transgender people and the LGBT population to express their love publicly. For me, I wish somebody would say something to me. I'm that person. I have that personality. I'm like, go ahead, argue with me all you want. You're gonna lose. But for my wife, she's petrified. She grew up. Her family had an intervention. She is like, I'm not okay with being gay for the most of her adult life until she met me. And I'm like, what are you stopping? Like, nobody cares. And if they care, they don't need to be in your life. You know, and it's really hard for people to understand that when they're able to walk down the block holding your partner's hand, holding your as a husband and wife. It's so easy for you to just grab your wife's hand and just walk down the block because nobody's going to bat their eyes at you. But for a same-sex couple or a transgender couple that is just technically a same-sex couple, it's very hard for them. They're afraid, especially with the community out there now. Pennsylvania is very lucky. We're very fortunate, but we're borderline. You know, we're borderline one way or the other. It's very scary out there for those people. My son is trans and he lives in Philly, and I thank God every day I started his transition super early. Because if I didn't start his transition super early, he would not be passing right now. And he probably would have been harmed exponentially while living in Philly. So it's very scary out there. People are being physically harmed. People are being killed because of who they are. And that's where this comes in. You guys need to have that.
I have the statistics on that. Globally, one trans person every day is murdered. In the United States of America, one trans person every 7 days is murdered. So something to be mindful of, that this is not just, I don't feel safe, it's they're not safe.
So let's go into the next slide. Heterosexism. You assume that heterosexuality is the only natural, normal, or moral mode of love and sexuality, and it grants certain privileges to heterosexuals. Now, and the only reason I know this is because I went to Catholic school for many years, and I learned that the Bible that we used was changed in the 40s. Okay? It was changed to, you shall not lay with boy, to you shall not lay with man. Two very different statements. Two extremely different statements. And what did that do from the 40s? It created a anti-homosexual tirade that brought us to where we are now, when it should have been a anti-pedophilia tirade where we should be standing on the rooftop screaming about. Heterosexual privilege. Again, we were just talking about that. Being able to show affection in public without fear of harassment. Being able to easily access positive role models and media images for one's gender identity and sexual orientation. Not facing rejection from one's family and friends because of one's sexual orientation or gender identity. And benefiting from societal normalcy and the assumption that heterosexual individuals and relationships are valid, healthy, and non-deviant. Okay? Remember, again, representation matters. Has anybody watched The Last of Us? Okay, I highly recommend it. It's a pandemic type of a movie or TV show. Highly recommend it. Very good. But there's one entire episode about a gay couple and how they survived for 20 years post-apocalyptic, and how their love grew and how they were able to die together. And I'm not giving anything away without giving anything away, But I'm telling you now, it was one of the times that I openly cried like a baby and yelled at my son for telling me, oh, it's a good one, and walking away. Okay? Openly cried. Why? Representation matters. The reason I'm always like, well, my wife, when I'm doing my presentations at work, is because I'm looking in the crowd that I'm speaking to, and I know there's somebody there who's either trans or gay or part of the LGBTQIA or has family members. And it's so hard for them to feel represented. So the minute I say that, they go, oh. And then after my presentation, I'll get somebody come up, look at my nephew, he's so cute. And they're showing me all these different things. They're talking to me because now they feel heard and seen. So representation matters, just like the Little Mermaid. Representation matters. You know, the Little Mermaid is now a beautiful black mermaid instead of a white mermaid. I didn't know that, you know, the fish had racial colors. I just thought they were fish. But it matters because when you look at all these little girls who watched the very first time the Little Mermaid commercial, and they're all crying because they look like the mermaid. It matters, okay? Next slide. And this is why gender pronouns are important. When you incorrectly refer to someone's identity, you harm their sense of belonging, feeling of coherence in group settings, and personal identity and development processes. Research suggests that misgendering via incorrect pronoun usage may lead to a manifestation of minority stress that burdens transgender and non-binary individuals with a host of negative physical, mental, and emotional health effects. Inversely, using correct pronouns creates an environment that better allows transgender and non-binary people to thrive. Furthermore, some studies link the use of the correct name and pronouns to lowered risk of depressive behavior and suicidal ideations. I have a personal, very personal feeling about this. I have a friend, they are non-binary, very non-binary, and they get misgendered all the time. They are also very depressed all the time. It's very correlating. They feel invalidated when people don't take enough time to respect them. Like if you are a she, her, and I say he, him all the time, every single time, oh, he's this. How would you feel? You'd be like, this person's blind. And then you have to keep saying, no, I'm she, her. No, I'm she, her. Same thing. They, them count. Again, you were talking about they, them. Use it. Even if you don't know what it is, just use it. If you don't know this person is she, her, he, him, they, them, just use they, them. Okay?
And the problem here is misgendered or disgendered. I think you used the word disgendered.
I probably said misgendered, but I need more water.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's an idea that you could be using it as an insult. Or you could be using it as
I know
being
people
stupid.
who misgender on purpose because
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It could be disgendered as suggesting that they are saying it on purpose with a bad intent, or they could be saying it because they don't know and because that's their habit. Like you said, older people like myself are just sort of heavily programmed.
But the minute somebody tells you, what are you going to do?
You mean what we talked about? Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to say, you know what, I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay.
And you're going to be like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was misgendering you.
Yeah.
What would you like to be called?
If they make it clear, yeah.
They usually do.
Okay.
Yeah. My mom is still not used to doing the pronouns, and we were talking about the same individual yesterday, and I still had to correct her. And it's, you don't want to be rude about it, but you just got to make a point. I'm like, no, Mom, it's they. And that's the point is when you start getting into, and Monica may touch on this later on in the presentation, if you have a transgender person and you knew them, like I heard before that you had some people that were going through the transition here at the church, you may have known them as their birth name. Now they're transitioning over to the other side, so now they have a different name. They may have gone from, for example, Jesse to Jess, okay? When you go and use that other name, their dead name, that's very offensive. You don't want to do that to a transgender person. That's very mean.
We'll get
Everybody
into that.
understand
Actually, to clarify that particular issue, Jesse and Jess are both perfectly acceptable to her as far as she's told everybody.
Right, and that's fine. That was just an example I'm
Yeah,
using
you're
as
right.
far as
That's
dead
what I'm
naming.
saying.
Dead naming is, even like for me, I'm retired law enforcement. So the state is still, I hate to say the word, but transitioning and how they're putting things on the driver's license. Same thing up at the VA for the veterans. They're still trying to figure out in programming and intake of birth name and their accepting name, okay? So when you see somebody, you're not gonna know that. If you know that they have gone through that, how would you like to be called is the easiest thing you can do if you're not sure what their name is. Does that make sense now? Yes.
I just wanted one hooray for representation. If anyone watched the Jeopardy Masters tournament, Amy Schneider switched from she, her to they, them.
Yay.
When she was playing originally, and now they are in the tournament. And also the other, one of the other finalists is they, them, and they used it seamlessly on Jeopardy for the whole 10-day tournament, so.
See, again, representation matters, and all it does is a question. So this is a cute little picture. I'll stay here. I'm so used to walking. Okay, under the queer umbrella, you have the LGBTQIA there. LGB would be sexualities. That would also be asexual, pansexual. T would be your genders, like transgender. You would also have your normal, not normal, but your male, female, trans, because guess what? A trans woman is a woman. Trans man is man. There's no difference. Okay? So just genders in general would be under the T umbrella. Go to the next one. It's my favorite. Look how cute that is. So it's the gender unicorn. Gender identity would be what they express themselves as: female, woman, girl, male, man, boy, or other genders, or what they identify as. Gender expression is feminine, masculine, other. Sometimes people dress up as aliens. I don't care. As long as you're covered properly around children, I really don't care what you're wearing. Sex assigned at birth, or I am AFAB. Have you heard that term? Assigned female at birth. Okay? And I stayed with that. So you have female, male, or other, or intersex. Physically attracted to women, men, other genders. Emotionally attracted to women, men, other genders. I also sent the website for that because it's so cute. Go 2 slides. Yes. So do you see how the rainbow goes from one to another and there's all that in between? It literally is that. It's just a rainbow of everything, okay? What matters to you guys, or you folks, just respect everybody's identity. If I come in and I say I'm they, them, then I'm they, them. If I come in and say one day I'm transgender, then I'm transgender, and it doesn't really matter because I'm still who I am on the inside. I just express it differently on the outside. Next one.
Well, it's not so much a question. My point would be that if you don't know or you're not sure, ask.
Again, you become a safe space the minute you're like, what's your pronouns?
Especially if it's, if you're assuming things and then they turn out to be wrong, I mean, then you just stepped in something warm and brown, well, then you really have hurt somebody's feelings. It may not have been intentional, but you still caused some hurt. So ask. That's been my safest course of action. If I don't know, or I can't confirm, or I just, there's some doubt in my mind, and sometimes it comes off a little weird that I'm asking the question, but I'd rather come off weird and then, not hurt somebody's feelings. So
if you see here, it's conjugating everything. So subjective, objective, possessive, reflexive, kind of an English class. He, him, his, himself, she, her, hers, herself. they, them, theirs, themself. This is where I learned. Sie, zer, zer, self. That sounds a lot. Some people like it though. And sie, her, hers, herself. I tend to stick with the top three. She, he, they. That's what I usually stick with because it's very universal. Unless somebody specifically says to me. And then if somebody specifically says, I prefer Z, I will remember that because that is not what I normally encounter. So I'm going to remember, oh, they are Z. Next one. I really want to talk about this. Minority stress theory. Okay. It is unique because it's a stressor that most people don't realize. If you are a minority, you automatically have stress on yourself. You place stress on yourself. And LGBTQIA people, or the LGBTQIA, I'm going to say LGBTQIA all the time, okay? I feel bougie. I really love it. Automatically feel stressed. They automatically feel as part of a minority, they automatically are stressed in a unique, chronic, and socially based process. Next slide. So think about it this way. Imagine if you're at work and you are worried about displaying pictures of your spouse. Who here has ever had to worry about displaying a picture of their spouse? Has anybody here been concerned with holding your spouse's hand walking down the street? Okay, valid. Anybody here been afraid of being fired for your sexual orientation or gender identity? Being denied housing because of your sexual orientation or gender identity? Being disowned by your family or ostracized by your church because of who you are? Those are natural things that everyone should be able to do regardless. But what are we afraid of? We're afraid of expressing ourselves because somebody is going to harm us in some way or another. It is chronic, and if you don't realize it, it happens every day, all day. Next one. All right, so I'm going to go through some of these. It's a lot. But this is what some LGBT people go through all the time. When you're at work, can you celebrate your spouse, marriage, things like that with your coworkers? Not usually as an LGBTQIA person. Do you get paid leave from your job when you're grieving the death of your spouse? Well, if you're technically not married up until 8 years ago, we couldn't grieve the loss of our spouse. We would not get the bereavement. Inheriting your partner's loved companions, love their things automatically after death? No, it'd go to their children or their parents or their first living relative because you are nothing to them according to the law, depending on the state. Having any positive TV role models. It's only recently that you're seeing that. Being able to share health insurance with your partner. Can't get health insurance unless you're married. Okay, Geisinger, I hate giving Geisinger everything, but they are really good at giving their domestic partnerships health insurance. I am part of that. They're very good at that. Working in the medical field, being able to see your partner after an accident. They're not going to call you all the time. They're going to call the first living relative. And as a married person, you're figuring they're going to call you. Doesn't always happen. Filing joint tax returns, adopting children, being able to be promoted in your job without your sexuality being played into a factor. Able to obtain child custody. Being able to complete forms and paperwork with the information you feel most accurately communicates who you are. Being able to feel safe in your interactions with police officers. Anybody here have an interaction with a police officer and they ever felt scared?
Can I talk on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The first and only time I've ever been afraid of a police officer was at the Pride Parade last year. When I was at the very end of the parade, because I got there late as an audience member with my 2 kids, and one of the officers was screaming, "Get out the street, move!" and like threatening to arrest people when we're shoulder to shoulder, and there's over 1,000 of us trying to get in Market Square. That was the first and only time I've been afraid of a police officer, is when I went to something, because you can't tell I'm LGBTQIA, because I'm not open about being intersex. I guess this is my coming out day. But that was my first time, was at a Pride event, and that was also my first Pride event that I wasn't a host of. So like, that was very eye-opening to me.
Thank you for telling me that. I kind of have some friends there in the police department there. So I'll make them aware that that is not appropriate and that they need to change that. So I will make them aware. As a matter of fact, as soon as we're done with this presentation, I'm calling. Being able to discuss and have access to multiple family planning options, not questioning normalcy between sexuality and cultural. Reading books or seeing movies about a relationship you wish you could have. Receiving discounted homeowner insurance rates with your recognized partner, because you can't do that. I only just got that this year. We've owned the home for 8 years. We only just got it. Raising children without worrying about state intervention. Florida has to worry about that. Florida has to worry about their children being taken from them. Having others comfort and support you when a relationship ends. Every relationship is basically the same. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. It doesn't matter. You know, you're losing somebody you loved. Being a foster parent, it's more normal here in the state of Pennsylvania and the northeastern part of the states. In the southern part and the Midwest part of the states, it's super hard for a same-sex couple to receive permission to be a foster parent. And there are all these children that are part of the LGBTQIA community that are being kicked out of their homes because their parents are not okay with it. So they would have been great to put in a home with a same-sex couple, but now they're not being allowed to. They're all suffering. Using a public restroom without fear of threat or punishment. We all have to use the bathroom. It doesn't really matter. I don't care if I'm in a male, female, age. I have to pee, get out of my way. You know, this is my thought process.
Remember to wash your hands.
Does he know what I do for a living? I am an infection prevention nurse. Believe me, wash your hands. Being employed as a preschool or elementary school teacher without people assuming you will corrupt the children. Okay? Dating the person you desired in your teens. I had a crush on Wonder Woman. I mean, if you didn't have a crush on Wonder Woman, I don't care what gender you are, you're nuts. She was beautiful. Linda Carter was the most epitome of feminism and strength and everything, all about it. But I had a crush on Wonder Woman. I never thought I would date a woman that looked like Wonder Woman. I always thought I would be stuck dating a guy who looked like Superman, which was okay because, again, Superman. Receiving validation from your religious community. Do you guys realize how important your church is right now? You are validating all of the people that come to your church. It is so important. Being accepted by your neighbors, colleagues, new friends, being able to go to a doctor and getting treatment that doesn't conflict with your identity, being able to access social services without fear of being discriminated against or turned away, sponsoring your partner for citizenship, and being open and having your partner accepted by your family. These are things that most people take for granted because they don't have to worry about it. Everybody in the LGBTQIA community worries every day. Next. So, if someone comes out to you, don't say, "Oh, I always knew," or downplay the significance of them sharing. Don't go tell everyone about your new trans friend. Don't forget that they're still the same person. Don't ask probing questions. This is what you're here for those probing questions. Ask us, okay? Don't ask them, ask us. And don't assume you know why they came out to you. But know that this is a huge sign of trust. Know that you are checking in on how confidential this is. Make sure you say, am I the only person you told? Are you coming out? Like, you came out publicly just now, I mean super publicly, but I'm going to ask you, outside of these people, does anybody else know? Because that's proper. You know, I don't want to just go, oh, I know Hava, yeah. You know, she's part of the community. Not everybody knows that. We know that you're a super ally, but you're part of the community. Remember that their gender or sexuality is just one part of a person. Okay, when you look at somebody, you're not looking in between their legs. You're carrying what's between their ears. Okay? You're going to show interest and curiosity about this because it's a new identity for them, and they're so excited to tell you about it. Especially during Pride Month, when I tell you, it is one of the most fun times because when you stand proud, you definitely are making everybody who want to push you down sick. And there's a certain petty satisfaction about being happy in despite of adversity. And ask them how you can support them. So, are these questions that you guys have? What bathroom does a transgender person use?
Whichever one they want.
Please don't ask how lesbians have sex. Please don't ask. I mean, people always ask me inappropriately, and I look at them and I'm like, it's 2023. If I can't, there's no explaining anything to you. There's a world of internet, leave me alone, okay? Are all transgender people gay? Transgender people are people. They're part of the community because they're transgender, but trans women are women. So if a trans woman dates another woman, they would be lesbian. If a trans man dates another man, they would be gay. It just depends on what they like. I don't really care what they like. Is bisexuality real? Yes. Yes, it is. That's the B in the LGBT. It's the B. It's very real. Why is there an LGBT community but not a straight community? Because we didn't have representation. Because it wasn't legal to be who we were. Because back in 68, 69, our community was hidden in mafia-run bars and being beaten and coerced and raped by the police. Not just the community, but by the police, that lesbians were not able to be out and be with each other publicly without the fear of being raped by somebody. And I know it sounds awful, but it's true. Women were raped because I'll show you what you're missing. These are things that most people don't realize happened. Pride is a riot, even though we make it fun and palatable. It is a riot. The minute we are all looked upon as equals and don't have to worry about 512 as of last night, anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ laws on the books ready to go, we're going to continue to do Pride.
I have statistics on that too. Would you like those?
Yes.
There has been an average of 3.75 anti-trans bills proposed each day this year.
Just in 2023. You know.
Can you tell I have a genre of knowledge right now?
I like that though. We can use you part of our, would you like to join Queer NEPA? Anyway, why are gay men more promiscuous? Okay, let's take the gay out of that. Let's just take the gay out of that. Okay? Why is promiscuity a big deal? It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, trans, it's your body and you have autonomy over it. Okay, gay. Listen, that's a different soapbox for a different day. Again, it doesn't matter what people do as long as it's consensual and with adults. Other than that, I don't care, and nobody else should care either. Don't all these labels actually make it worse, not better? No. Because sometimes you don't know how you feel, and the minute you know how you feel and there's a word for it, you feel represented, you feel empowered, you feel like you could be present in the community. In a gay relationship, who is the man? Both of them. Just like in a lesbian relationship, who's the man? Both of them. Because I don't know any relationship, gay or straight, where the woman has never told another person to do something. I was married to a man for 13 years. He listened to everything I said. I'm with a woman for 10 years. She listens to mostly everything I said, but she puts up a better fight. I still get my way, though. The relationships really are the same. The only difference is that when you look at me, it's two women. When I look at you, it's a man and a woman. Can you ask somebody how they identify? Yes. Yes, you can. More like, can I ask you what your pronouns are? That's the most appropriate. Is a man who dates a transgender woman actually gay? A man is dating a woman, transgender or not, a man is dating a woman. Technically, that would be a straight couple. I know. So here's my favorite part. Go to the next slide. No, back. So this is a history. Let me give you a history. So we can go back into like 1732 to find terms related to the LGBTQIA in history. However, it was a lot, and I didn't think you guys would want to do all of that. So I'm going to go to the first event in 1962. Illinois becomes the first state to decriminalize homosexual acts between two consenting adults in private. If you ever want to have fun, Google antiquated laws in states. Okay? You will find the most random laws about selling a chicken to get married on Sundays in Arizona ever.
It's also illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket on Sundays in Pennsylvania.
Really?
Yes.
Again, Google antiquated laws. All right, second event, 1966. Compton's cafeteria riot in San Francisco, where transgender and drag queens reacted to ongoing police harassment, helping to create the National Transsexual Counseling Unit. Third event was 1967, Loving versus Virginia. I always put that in because people forget. Okay, Supreme Court decision overturned state laws that prohibited interracial marriage or miscegenation laws, and agreeing it violated the 14th Amendment. This is super important because that's only 1967. And it was interracial marriage, that's all it was. 1969, Stonewall riots. It is responding to an unprovoked police raid. 400 people of the LGBTQIA and their allies protested their treatment and pushed the people. The key people was Martha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. Both of them were transgender women, and they were people of color. Fifth event, 1969, Stonewall sparked the formation of the Gay Liberation Front, and that advocated for sexual liberation for all, and the Gay Activist Alliance formed for a more political purpose of securing basic human rights and freedoms for all gay people. And then of 2015, that's our sixth event, 2015, marriage equality. Obergefell versus Hodges. It's a Supreme Court decision, and the court voted 5-4. That the fundamental rights to marry is guaranteed to same-sex couples by the 14th Amendment, and the mandates that states must allow same-sex couples to marry legally. Isn't that scary? It's just, people have grandkids that are older than that.
Canada had that same thing in 2005, so.
Next one. Interesting facts, the LGBT rights movement in the US was kickstarted with the riot. The rainbow flag was designed in 1978 by Gilbert Baker, and he was a soldier in the US Army, a medic, artist, designer, and political activist. And President Obama announced the designation of the first national monument to LGBTQIA rights in 2016. Next. Bayard Rustin was an American leader in social movements for civil rights, socialism, nonviolence, and gay rights. He also helped organize the March in Washington, where Dr. King performed his infamous speech. Harvey Milk was an American politician and the first openly gay elected official in the history of California. And Dr. Rachel Levine is the first openly transgender person to be confirmed by the Senate, and she serves as President Biden's Assistant Secretary of Health, and she previously served at the state level in Pennsylvania as their Secretary of Health. Next. Everybody is human. Kindness is free. Kindness creates a better community for everyone. Does anybody have any questions?
Ask most of our questions and we've gone on. It's actually kind of very good.
I love that, though. I love the fact that you guys feel free to ask those questions.
And don't, after today, if you have any questions that come up, you can reach us. We have a new website that's going to be going live, or is live.
It's live. I'm excited.
So you can reach out to us there on our email and things like that we provide, yes.
We do have a question online from Claudia. Go ahead, Claudia.
Took me a minute to unmute. I'm Claudia Glennon, speaker. I work with Action Together, and we would love to have a presentation like this. I think I put in the remarks, so contact me. Is the best thing we can do now is kind of follow the things that you suggested and informed us on today? I'm in Luzerne County, but right outside of Berwick. I mean, it's very red. Constantly people going, well, I don't think there should be boys playing women's sports. And I know we can say, no, women playing women's sports, but they go on about, the whole story. I mean, that kind of thing, when we're confronted by the other side, I mean, the same people that we're probably not going to ever convince of anything. And a lot of times I just ignore and I don't engage, or I just say, are they human? Everybody needs to be treated the same. But that, I don't know. I guess I feel a need to address some of this, but I don't know how. Am I making any sense?
If somebody, I'll use my example from yesterday. I went and got a tattoo and they're actually a sponsor of us for the Stride for Pride. But they had some people in the shop and they were questioning, why is everything rainbow and it's being shoved down our throats and whatnot? And I said, do you really want to know why? Or are you just sitting here spouting whatever you want to hear because you want attention? And then they were like, no, really, tell me why. Because, they have some guts. And I did. And I explained to them, you guys are not going to experience the same as everybody else. And then I go into some history about Stonewall being a riot and ask them, what do they know? Ask the questions. What do you know about the history of Pride? And what can I confirm with you and fix for your education? Like, do you really want to know the education, or are you just going to sit here and be like, ah, rah, rah, rah? Sometimes they just want to, and you ignore it. But sometimes you'll have that moment, that moment of opportunity to be like, oh, I can educate somebody. I can tell them what Stonewall was. I can tell them that it was a riot. I can tell them that transgender people are being killed every day. I can tell them that I can't walk down the street holding my wife's hand because somebody's going to be rude to us and say something like derogative. I can tell them that, the very real fears that I have as a human and that they'll never have because they're not in the same position.
I think to help answer a little bit of your question, you feel that you want to make a stance or help support an action or a process is get involved. We have some, and I don't like the terms, but it's easier to relate. It's called a sister organization that helps supports Queer NEPA, and that's In This Together or Action Together. And
She's from Action Together.
Oh, yeah, okay. Get involved more with theirs, and when things come up on the Hill, or political as we call it, get involved with that stuff. Queer NEPA is evolving. We used to be a very political and I don't want to say right, but out there picketing-ish and making statements. We still are, but we're doing it silent through education and through silent stance. We're still here and we're not going anywhere. But you're more than welcome to join us in that support and in that fight. We're in a fight for our lives right now. Yes, this is June Pride, and we should be proud of who we are and support each and every one of us. And we have to be here for each and every one of us. But again, as Monica had mentioned through the presentation, Pride is not just June. It's not June 1st. It's the whole year, every day, 24 hours a day. I'm going to circle back to the beginning. She asked a question. You have a member in your congregation that does dance classes, and Monica and I went, and I wanted to learn dance, and Monica has a background in dance. I was very scared. I was petrified. One, I have 2 left feet.
She does not.
And second of all, I didn't know how it's going to be received going in as a lesbian, as a gay person with another female. How's that work? How am I going to be receptive? How are we going to be receptive in this place? And no questions asked when they separated us and they needed to go over the steps between basically your male partner and your female partner. Like, no, well, let's have the lead partner. See how they changed it? Instead of it being masculine, it was the lead partner and the follower. So they changed their verbiage, and not through us prompting them, they did it automatically. And it was very accepting. And that's my point I want to make here for you, for the church, is you may have to change maybe some words or a little bit of behaviors, but it's going to make them feel more comfortable. Thank you for having us today.
Any other questions? Did we answer her question?
She says she's very involved but still has questions. So I will give you her email.
Yes.
Yes.
Feel free to
answer questions.
Could you help me? Do you guys have any questions?
Are those slides available?
Oh, yeah, I emailed them. Yeah. And all the resources that I used to create the slides are at the end. So this way you can just go and pop on. And all my notes are there too. And I had to look up a couple of terms because I forgot them. So again, feel free to look. If you don't know it, we all have a computer in our hands. Google it. It is the best thing you can do. And it'll save you time and heartache and stress if you're like, what does that mean? Instead of asking them if they say something and you feel nervous, look it up first and then speak to them about it. Okay, and honestly, if you have questions that pop up, just let them know and email one of us. We'll have a conversation. We don't mind. I'd rather you ask me with that open communication, and I can give you the best education I can, than you ask the person you're trying to speak to and hurt their feelings. You're not going to hurt my feelings by asking a question that you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. But if you're asking me and not asking that person, that means you care enough about that person's feelings to make that effort, to make that change. Okay?
I would say the same goes for me. I will answer any questions.
There's so many times I'm at events and I go, what's this mean? And I'm like, oh, should be the first time someone told me.
I'll tell you, mind your own business anyway.
The first time someone told me queer didn't mean gay, so I just thought queer only meant gay. My world stopped until Emily came in. I was like, Emily, I'm waiting for you to get here. So.
I mean, it doesn't just mean gay. My favorite though is that it is the weird, it's the different, it's the, and I don't know about anybody else, but as a queer person, I'm weird and different because we were always the black sheep. We were always the ones that nobody looked towards. And, you know, the goth girl from New York City, it was me, if you couldn't tell. I wore color for you today. You're welcome.
Color, but it's color.
It is, but other people are wearing the same kind of muted color too, so.
I own 3 colors, blue, gray, and black.
You're wearing all three of them.
But honestly, when you're an underdog, you look for other underdogs. You feel safe. Do you know what their people are teaching their children when they're out in public and they get lost? To look for the goth girl. Literally, look for the goth girl. Look for the girl dressed all in black. They're saying, go look for the black man. They're telling these children that they feel safer for them to go to the goth girl, the drag queen, or the black man, than to go to a police officer or stay around where other people could be around them. Because statistically, they are safer with the goth girl, they are safer with the drag queen, and they are safer with the black man than they are with somebody that looks like themselves. So I hate that, because you should be safe always. So we should make it so this way certain behaviors are not acceptable and leave the drag queens alone. And there is a pride parade, second year, in Wilkes-Barre this year on June 25th. So please come out, support. There are t-shirts for allies.
Yeah, we're ready.
You guys are marching.
You're marching with us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're marching at their own.
Oh, you have your own little?
Yeah, we got the
Yeah,
church
they got
has
their-
its own thing. We have our own booth.
There's going to be a unicorn with us. Don't ask, don't ask. Last year, my wife was a uterus.
Nice.
This year, she's a unicorn. So I don't know. Every year, she picks something different.
So,
We're going to have fun with it.
okay.
Thank you, guys.
Don't forget your remote.
Oh, thank you.
Out there.